Hey guys, it's me, back again with another video. Hope everyone's having a great time. Today, we'll be looking at yet another cartel rivalry that happened between the Sinaloa and the Beltran Leyva gangs. Now, if you're a frequent viewer of my channel, then you probably already know who these people are. The Sinaloa Cartel needs no introduction, quite possibly the biggest and most dominant cartel in all of Mexico to date. And the Beltran Leyva Organization used to be part of the Sinaloa, but now it's all been disbanded, and this cartel officially doesn't exist. What happened? Let's take a dive into the past. It was in the 80s, the Beltran brothers, namely Alfredo, Arturo, Carlos, and Hector, were small-time opium poppy producers in their home state of Sinaloa. Later on, they were employed as hitmen and distributors. Their home municipality, Badiraguato, is the same as that of Joaquin Guzman Loera, alias El Chapo. Rumor has it that it was these brothers that introduced arguably the most famous drug lord into the world of trafficking. There's records of the both of them working for the Guadalajara Cartel. Moreover, Alfredo Beltran Levya, the youngest of the four cousins, got married to Guzman's cousin, thereby tightening the bond between the Guzman Loera and the Beltran Leyva families. This bond proved crucial in 1993 when Guzman was caught and imprisoned. The brothers brought him suitcases of money and later helped him escape in 2001. The Beltran Leyva presence was also visible in 2002 when Guzman brought together 25 of the most prominent drug trafficking factions to make the Federation, a bond forged by their mutual interest in trafficking drugs north and driving out the Gulf Cartel to the east. And they were present when the Federation first began to crack after some disputes broke out with the Juarez Cartel in 2004. But when the divisions began, Alfredo, Arturo, and Hector, whom the authorities referred to as the Three Caballeros or the Three Gentlemen in security reports, remained at the center of the Sinaloa Cartel's trafficking and corruption networks. At one point, the authorities estimated that they were operating in 8 states of the country, where they used clandestine tracks and their contacts in the security forces to move shipments of several tons of nose candy, the more locally known, to the United States, most of the time through the state of Sonora on the border with Arizona. Yes, the Beltran Leyva Organization began to make its mark. Guzman gave them the task of forming a security team to confront the growing power of his other rival, the Gulf Cartel. A few years earlier, the Gulf Cartel had convinced 31 officers of the Special Forces of the Mexican Army to create a powerful, sophisticated, and brutal armed wing that would be called Los Zetas. The BLO hired its own security team, a collaborator, Edgar Valdez Villarreal, nicknamed La Barbie, for his blonde hair and classic American looks. Valdez was a brutal and effective assassin. His first task was to seize Nuevo Laredo from the Gulf Cartel and its armed wing, the Zetas. Valdez failed, but his reputation was consolidated as he equaled the barbaric acts carried out by the Zetas. Another group, Los Negros, was led by a former police detective, and at the top of the pyramid was Arturo Beltran Leyva, alias El Jefe de Jefes, who created his own unit that he modestly called Arturo Special Forces, or FEDA. The power and influence of BLO was spreading rapidly. As of 2005, the BLO was reportedly operating in 11 states: Guerrero, Morelos, Chiapas, Querétaro, Sinaloa, Jalisco, Quintana Roo, Tamaulipas, Nuevo León, the State of Mexico, and the Federal District, Mexico City. Guzman also put the BLO on the job of infiltrating the security forces and politics, which they accomplished with alarming efficiency. In 2005, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, recorded a conversation between NAHUM ACOSTA, an advisor to the Fox government, and one of the Beltran Leyvas, probably Hector. Hector was responsible for the payroll, which allegedly also included senior members of the Federal Investigation Agency and the country's anti-drug czar, Noe Ramirez Mandujano. Ramirez was imprisoned for allegedly receiving $450,000 a month from the organization, but the charges were dropped in April 2013. But the ruptures began in 2007 when rumors of an alliance between the BLO and the Zetas began to spread. The Zetas had begun to separate from the Gulf Cartel, and despite the historical tensions between these groups, Zetas' control of the eastern coast would complement the BLO's control of much of the western coast. Added to this was a dispute between the Sinaloa faction and the BLO over a distribution route in Chicago. A reliable source states that Guzman might have also felt threatened or vulnerable after watching the rapid growth of the BLO. Its presence was significant enough to rival the Sinaloa. There were also rumors that Guzman and his low-profile partners weren't satisfied with the high-profile Beltran Leyva brothers. These, especially Arturo and Alfredo, were often seen and photographed with their head security, VALDEZ, at glamorous parties with soap opera actresses and famous singers. The center of the problem was Alfredo Beltran Leyva, alias El Mochomo, who's married to Guzman's cousin. El Mochomo lived an extravagant lifestyle, which may have caused tension between him and Guzman, who's quieter and more business-oriented, a report says. This, however, is understandable. Imagine running a partnership firm, but all partners had core differences in personality. How long do you think such a business would last? The Beltran brothers were pushing their luck, aggravating Guzman, and few people got away with provoking El Chapo. Things took a turn for the worse when the army surprised Alfredo on January 21, 2008 in Culiacan, arresting him and several of his accomplices. After his arrest, rumors immediately began to circulate that Guzman had turned over the information to security forces. Arturo was furious and requested a meeting with Guzman, but after authorities released Guzman's son, Ivan Archivaldo, from jail on the basis of some technicality, Arturo's worst, possibly paranoid fears were confirmed. Guzman had provided the knowledge that led to the arrest of his younger brother, Alfredo, in order to get rid of a problem and regain his son's freedom. See what happens when you push your luck with the most wanted criminal in the country. Arturo took it upon himself to avenge his brother. His targets were twofold: the supporters of Guzman Loera and his longtime ally, Ismael Zambada Garcias, alias El Mayo, another terrifying entity, and the corrupt security officials who were on the cartel's payroll. The first signs of divisions between the BLO and Sinaloa came with a wave of violence in Culiacan, capital of the state of Sinaloa, including the murder of Guzman's 20-year-old son, Hector Guzman Lopez, who was killed by nearly 20 armed men as he was leaving a shopping center in Culiacan. Yes, the Beltran-Guzman relationship went from being best buds to killing Guzman's son. This act alone proves that the Beltran-Sinaloa bond was done for real. There's no fixing the damage that was done. In fact, the death of Hector Guzman became a historic event for the city. El Chapo was so grief-stricken that he sent the order to buy all the roses in Culiacan for burial. But here's the twist. What if I told you that Edgar was killed by his own people? There's another report that states that Edgar and his friend Meza Cazares traveled to Chicago, Illinois to make a sale. Defying his father's order to stay home, they succeeded with the sale and tried to sneak back into Culiacan, his father's home base, in a red SUV one night. El Chapo's assassins unfortunately mistook the vehicle as Arturo Beltran Leyva's car, reported that Beltran Leyva was spotted and received the order to shoot the vehicle. Around 500 bullets rained on the vehicle, instantly killing the both of them. El Metrico, Guzman's friend, identified the bodies and was immediately filled with regret. The media was manipulated or deceived to believe that it was the Beltran group that assassinated Edgar and that he was not killed by friendly fire. Either way, Edgar was not the only one that suffered in the end. The killings quickly spread to Mexico City, where 2 senior police officers were killed during the first week of May, surprising the country's elite. At the end of May, there were 116 murders in Culiacan, 24 of them policemen. Nationwide, the country recorded 493 drug-related deaths that month, 64 of whom were police officers, a record at the time. The federal government deployed more than 2,000 soldiers to Sinaloa to confront the growing wave of violence. But the federation was definitely over, and there was little the government could do to stop the fighting. Bloodshed levels in Sinaloa skyrocketed, and the BLO allied itself with its former arch-rivals, Los Zetas. The Sinaloa Cartel reached working agreements with the Gulf Cartel and the Familia Michoacana, which is another ruthless group that had burst onto the scene in 2006. All this time, Guzman, Zambada, and Esparragoza remained aligned against the BLO, and using his contacts in the federal government, the Sinaloa Cartel wore down the BLO. In 2009, dozens of his agents were arrested or killed, and in December 2009, the Mexican Navy killed Arturo Beltran Leyva in an apartment located in a luxurious neighborhood in Cuernavaca. This was when Guzman regained the upper hand. The year 2010 wasn't any better for the BLO. After the death of Arturo, VALDEZ VILLAREAL separated to form his own organization. Hector Beltran Leyva regrouped what was left of the BLO and changed its name to the South Pacific Cartel. However, the battles between the two factions left the cartel vulnerable, and Carlos Beltran Leyva was arrested in January 2010. Valdez Villarreal's main lieutenant was captured in April, and Valdez was arrested in late August. Hector's head of security, Sergio Villarreal, alias El Grande, was arrested in September. Hector Beltran Leyva was arrested in October 2014. He was posing as an art and real estate dealer. He was then transferred to a maximum security prison in Altiplano, which is one of Mexico's most secure facilities, with meter-thick walls and restricted airspace above it. His capture was seen as a major victory by both the Mexican government as a war against cartels and Guzman, since he was the only remaining pillar of the Beltran Leyva Organization. However, he died from a heart attack in 2018 while he was still in prison. What remains of the BLO has strengthened its alliance with Los Zetas to stay afloat. The Beltran Leyva Organization as a singular entity no longer exists, at least according to the Mexican authorities. Some reports indicate that Chapo Isidro, who supposedly worked as Hector's right man, is to be crowned as a new head of the BLO. However, it's highly unlikely for him to assert centralized authority over the entire organization that is hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, the BLO has been segmented into multiple factions that have attached themselves into various other cartels for survival. Some of them were absorbed by major groups, namely the Los Zetas and the Gulf Cartel. The remaining few has either been disbanded or formed separate individual groups. This was how the most prominent cartels of a time came to an end. The four Beltran brothers are either dead or in jail. Yes, the Sinaloa boss, El Chapo, is also imprisoned. However, unlike the BLO, the Sinaloa is still a single unit, active under different leadership between the El Mayo gang and El Chapo's sons. And with that, we've come to the end of our video. If you found the video useful and worthy of your time, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to get notified about the newer videos soon as they drop. Thank you for watching. Peace.